Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So, as promised, I made it through the first 5 episodes of the TV series called The Watcher. Let's take a look at this, and thanks for the subscriber that asked me to look at this series. Really creepy series, and it's probably not what you think it is, but we're going to get into it. Apparently, this was based on a true story. Here is the Wikipedia page for The Watcher. It came out on October 13th, 2022. We're going to break down some of these scenes. There are 7 total episodes. And again, based on a true story. Now, what is the plot line of The Watcher? Well, it's basically about an entitled family who is pretty financially well off, but they end up cornering themselves into a bad investment decision, which is the purchase of this creepy house in this creepy neighborhood. Now, when I think about the main theme of this series, the word gaslighting comes to mind. And we talked a little bit about the concept of gaslighting on a previous show, didn't we? What is gaslighting? Well, it's a form of psychological harassment. Usually it's motivated by jealousy, greed, control. So you can have controllers or people that are in control gaslighting you. Oftentimes it also comes in the form of narcissism. So the way it works is that the gaslighter uses psychological tactics to try to drive you insane, basically. And the more you react and respond to these types of people, the more that they are able to manipulate you psychologically. They like to do things like character assassinate you, or they like to blame you, or they like to lie in order to make you feel responsible for the chaos that they are creating. Now, the only way to deal with a person who likes to gaslight other people is to basically just completely cut off ties with that person. Because any interaction that you give them, they feed off of that. And it can be positive interaction in terms of trying to, create bridges to try to resolve whatever issue that you feel that there is with this person. So even something positive that you try to do to fix the situation, they simply feed off that and flip it around and continue to gaslight you. It doesn't matter what you try to do, is the point I'm trying to make. And essentially that's what this family experiences in The Watcher when they move into this house that's really overpriced for their budget. And they try to figure out who is sending them these threatening letters that they begin to receive in the mail. Now, the letters aren't outwardly threatening, because if they were, the police would have done a better job of trying to figure out who it was. But it was subtle threats like, oh, we can see you through the window. And what's your daughter's name? And all these just weird, creepy questions in the letter that they get in their mailbox. Now, eerily, in some kind of twist of happen chance, which I don't think anything is happen chance in this reality, I was actually a victim of exactly this kind of gaslighting. Now, I haven't shared this with you up to this point because there really hadn't been a reason to share it with you. But basically, this same exact thing happened to me. I had moved a tiny shed onto my property several years ago, and a group of neighbors across the street, well, not really across the street, they were across a 2-mile valley on the complete other side on a separate street. They were still in it's not really a subdivision, but it kind of is. It's got a really old covenant attached to it from the 1980s with some very loose rules about what you can do with the land. And so these people are like 2 miles away across a valley, and you can only see their house when the leaves are off the tree. And they can only see my house when the leaves are off the trees. Leaves are on the trees, you don't see anything because it's 2 miles of forest, right? So what they ended up doing is basically drafting a letter with an attorney, threatening and demanding that I remove my shed from my property. Now, this was going to one day be my future home. They didn't know that. They just automatically assumed it broke the covenant or whatever. And they all got together and gaslighted me. Now imagine the horror of receiving an official letter from an attorney signed by your neighbors who you've never met. It's a form of terrorism is what it is. Now, of course, my property did meet the rules. They didn't know that because how can they know that, seeing it from 2 miles away? But they were hoping that they could threaten and harass me off my own land, and maybe in hopes that I would sell the property. I mean, could you imagine receiving an official letter from the local attorney representing your neighbors who were probably sitting with a telescope and binoculars staring at my property? I mean, it was a little unsettling, and I was very upset about it. But as I'm going to show you next, the same exact thing happened to these people in the series The Watcher. In fact, at some point, the family believes that they've been caught up inside of some kind of sick real estate house flipping scheme where a real estate agent sells you a property at a very high price, and then they gaslight you so that you sell it at a low price, and then they make money. Now, this is a true story. So this stuff really happens. Now, that had crossed my mind when it was happening to me long before this series came out. And then I watched this series and I'm like, whoa, that kind of is like what happened to me. Anyway, long story short, I stood my ground. I made the necessary changes that I had to do so that my shed met the requirements of the dumb 1980s, rule that they had come up with. Now, here's the creepy thing. Before I got the property, I told the real estate agent my plans of what I wanted to do. Now, this was a really, really nice guy. I'm not saying anything bad about him. But the irony of this, the irony of what ended up happening based on, after what he had told me. So this was like 4 years ago. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to get it like a shed and I want to convert it. And he goes, I don't see any problem with that. He goes, honestly, Casey, all the neighbors would have to get together and sue you. This is exactly what he told me. And he goes, most people don't care that much about what you're doing on your own property, especially out here in rural Arkansas. And so the only threat you would actually ever have is if everyone got together and hired an attorney to sue you. And that's exactly what happened. Now, the reason why I don't suspect that he had anything to do with it is because when I contacted him about this, he basically gave me access to his attorney for the real estate agency. And his attorney called that attorney and we resolved it. I said, look, I'm making the necessary adjustments, and so there's no problem here. Now, so I was able to get the creepy Arkansas neighbors to back off. Now, I wrote in the letter that I returned to these people that if they continued harassing me, that they would be the subject of a YouTube internet investigation into small town harassment. And that I hoped this wasn't about color. I didn't quite pull the race card, but I said, I hope this isn't about color. Now, let me clarify this because all the people on the street that I live on are amazing. Greatest neighbors in the world. These people were like the Richie Poo neighbors on the other street, which are still part of my quote unquote subdivision, who were in their Richie Poo houses and couldn't stand that there was a shed 2 miles away. They had no idea what the final plan was going to be for it, and they could have just asked me, and instead they decided to gaslight me. So this is a little bit into the world of gaslighting, okay? So let's get back to the series, because that's why we're here, right? You're not here to hear my personal stories, but it does relate directly to what the series is about. So the family moves in, and immediately the neighbors start gaslighting them. They get a series of threatening letters. They begin to show up in their mailbox, and they end up deciding to put up cameras to try to catch this person putting the mail in the mailbox, right? Well, the mail comes in the mail, so they're not going to catch anyone doing that. But they start basically going insane. It wrecks their marriage. The children are all freaked out as they're trying to figure out who it is. They know it's somebody in the neighborhood, but that's about all they know. Remember, this is a true story. Now, they end up going to the police, and at first the police seem helpful, but in the end, the police just don't do what they need to do to take care of the situation. And basically, they begin to assume that maybe even the police station is involved in this, because the police chief is sleeping with their real estate agent. So they end up contacting the previous owner of the house, which is this guy right here. And the same thing happened to him, except it drove his wife to suicide. Watch this.
There are these cults, right? And there is something in the blood called adrenochromes that's excreted from the body by fear.
I'm sorry, why are they doing this again? Just to look younger?
I looked it up, and they feed off of it.
So they acknowledge that basically it's about a crenodrome. Now I'm saying that differently because when I say it, YouTube will take it down. But when it's said in fiction, it's perfectly okay. In fact, the series is available, or will be available on YouTube for purchase, right? So they can say it and they get paid for it, but we can't really talk about it. Think of the irony of that. So he walks in. This is the part where he discovers his wife hanging. I'm not going to show you her hanging, but on the way into the room, you're going to see a soccer ball.
Hey. Hello.
Sitting on the bed. Now, this isn't the only time that you're going to see the soccer ball. We're going to look at more scenes, many more scenes, where they show the soccer ball. And I'll explain to you what the soccer ball means, but understand that what you just heard him say was that he acknowledged that it's not just about a crenodrome, it's about the fear generated in the victim. Just like the fear the family experiences as a result of the harassment that they endure. Now, the guy goes on to describe a satanic cult feeding off of the crenodrome. And watch.
How does he know?
More soccer balls. Completely different scene. More soccer balls.
Jesus Christ.
Now, the series kind of drops the theme of the satanic cult as the plot unfolds, as they're feverishly trying to find out who is gaslighting them, right? So you just hear a mention of the satanic cult, and it comes up a couple other times, but it's not the major theme of the series. Now, I'm only on episode 5, so it could end up being that this is what they uncover, but to this point, they're looking at all these other reasons as to why they're being gaslighted. But here's the thing. That sole mention of a crenodrome is what unlocked the rest of the clues hiding in plain sight in this series. Because they mention pizza. They mention and show underground tunnels. And of course, soccer balls that you just saw. And everything else associated with the real truth about the underground sacrifices going on in America. Wow. So, what's up with the soccer ball? Well, one of the major truth community discoveries that was made right here on this channel was the fact that the crenodrome molecule shares the same pattern, same geometric pattern as what's on a soccer ball. So here, let me show it to you. Here's a soccer ball. You have a hexagon and a pentagon with the arm sticking out. Here's an acrinodrome molecule. Hexagon and a pentagon with the arm sticking out. Now, we discovered this probably 3 or 4 years ago, I want to say. And we realized then, it's not just that the patterns are similar, right? There's more to this. We found that the soccer ball is a symbol of fear. And it was started to appear as Easter eggs in many children's films in really inappropriate spots, hiding in plain sight, like Monsters, Inc., where the soccer ball is under the bed next to the monster that comes out from under the bed to scare the child. And in that scene, there's a pizza box on the ground, which is not a place where a pizza box would be in a child's room. There's this child's laying in bed. Remember the scare floor? And they harvest the fear of the children in Monsters, Inc. So, soccer ball equals acrinodrome. Now, we took all those videos down because, as I said, they can talk about it and depict it in fiction, but the minute you start talking about it as anything that's real, and the minute you start attaching names to it, they take you down. Now, here's why else I know that this is real, is because the minute that this discovery started catching traction, the Q community started becoming popular in the truth community, and YouTube started removing any posts having to do with pizza and acrinodrome. All the posts were taken down. A lot of channels got struck out. So that's why I pulled my videos down, so we didn't strike out along with everybody. Now, let's break down the pizza even further. Let me go back in here, make sure you guys are with me. And we'll continue to break down this pizza because I found another aspect to all this. Because as the plot continues, the family discovers that the previous owners were murdered and placed in the sliced pizza position on the floor. Watch this. Now, that's all I'm going to show you. It gets more gruesome, but basically you see them laying there in a sliced pizza position on the floor. And I had seen this position before, and so have you. Let's go back into the chat and see if anybody can remember the sliced pizza position and where you saw this before, so that the rest of YouTube universe doesn't think we're crazy. Because we're all seeing it. Let's take a look here. Where have we seen this before? Got a couple of really good super sleuths on the channel that will get this one right away. Okay, I'm trying to read through the comments here. Through the chat here. Yes, Trumpgate got a soccer ball from Putin. Yes, he did. That was all acrinodrome coding. Dahmer says Rage Against the Machine. You could be correct. I don't know about that. I'm talking about something else specifically. Where have you seen victims laying in the circle? Like that. Yes. Victoria got it. All right. So, watch this, because I've got the actual image right here. So, of course, this is it. This is the painting. I can't say who it belongs to, but this was in somebody's home. The home of a person that was supposed to be arrested by Trump. Instead, we get dumb stories of these people are already in jail and they've been cloned and big nothing sandwich. Okay? So now you know the truth. So, we've also seen the pizza pattern in a different place, haven't we? Now this one's a little bit more subtle. Sorry about that. That's the next portion we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, one of you saw, well, we all saw this pizza pattern in a different location. This is from the series The OA, which may stand for the original angel. And in that series, there's an insane doctor who builds an underground cell shaped like a sliced pizza box. And in the cell, here's the cell right here. It's in the shape of a pentagram, but they're basically imprisoned in 5 separate slices of pizza underground. He imprisons these 5 subjects and experiments on them because they have some kind of telekinetic abilities that he's studying. Here's a scale model of the cell, and it appears in I think the 2nd or 3rd season of the OA, and it's in the form of a fish tank. Now this is the OA right here, and in another life in the series, she worships a hydra. I wish I was making all this up, but I'm not. The very same hydra water theme repeated again. Completely different series, completely different genre, but yet here it is. The OA. Now, one of you had mentioned this to me, and I'm glad I took another look at it, because when we decoded the OA, we did mention, I think we did show this octopus and her worshiping it. We did notice that the underground cell was shaped like pizza slices, but now we're putting it all together with everything that we've just discovered over the past couple months. So then, back to the Watcher. They basically find an underground tunnel. Watch.
We just found it.
No.
These are actually pretty common in the Northeast with houses this old. They used them to run booze during Prohibition.
Oh my God.
It's a tunnel.
Right. Is that to another part of the property?
No,
I'm going in.
Okay, well, hold on. I'm coming with you.
you're going to want a hard hat.
So, another aspect of the truth hiding in plain sight that they try to fictionalize so nobody will believe it, which is the fact that they have underground tunnels going underneath all these buildings and under different places in New York, and place where this is where they move the victims around in there and do some of their sacrifice. Now, next you're going to see this really creepy guy posing as a building inspector so that he can enter the house from one of these underground tunnels. But then this guy's the husband, and he catches him in his house. He's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Your wife let me in. I'm the building inspector," but he's really not the building inspector. And the building inspector guy posing as a building inspector tells the truth about human sacrifice in America. Now, this is what I've been trying to tell you guys from the beginning. That wars are human sacrifice. Cycles initiated by the elite to cull the human population. And that all the world leaders are actually friends. They're not enemies. They just pretend to be enemies. And we're the dumb ones thinking, "Oh, China wants to kill us. Oh, Russia wants to kill us. Oh, we need to go sign up for the military. Oh, we need to vote for a strong military leader. Oh, we need Trump because he'd be tough on China. Oh, we need..." And we're the dumb ones who go over there and get dismembered and killed. Listen to what this guy says.
Historical events, they don't just happen. They're set into motion by great men, generational personae. It's the fourth turning.
Beg pardon?
It's about the length of a human life. And at the end of each, there's a crisis. In this country, the crisis is always war.
So he's telling you that this is cyclical, sacrificial cycles. They're telling you right here. So why would anyone in their right mind go sign up for the military? Why would you do that? knowing what you're hearing right now.
Revolution, 80 years later, Civil War, 80 years later, World War II.
80-year cycles. He just told you 888. I've been telling you about the eights for many, many years now.
And every 4 turnings is a seculum. And each one of these unleashes a turning that lasts about 20 years.
Now, I've got these, what he's saying kind of mixed up because he goes on this diatribe for like a minute, and I can't just play that through because, you know, copyright. That's why it's scrambled in 9-second intervals. But hopefully you're putting together what he's saying. He's talking about seculums, which is a human lifetime. He's talking about cycles and turnings, and every 80 years, they basically sacrifice a bunch of people with an event.
More or less. And that's coming up on 80 years now, so something's about to happen.
Now, there are some, much more horrific scenes in this, and like I said, I'm going to try to be better about not showing you guys the creepiness factor of some of these series. You don't need to see all that. All you need to see is the dialogue of what's going on. You don't need to see the gore and all that. But you need to know this. You need to know this stuff because this stuff is real. And this is why I tell you, until you step out of the right-left paradigm, you will be the sacrifice of the elite. So when people get mad at me for covering Trump, that means they're still in the right-left paradigm. Because any feelings that you have to try to defend either side means that you're still in the right-left paradigm. I say a lot of negative things about Biden. I say he's a nothing man, an empty suit. He's irrelevant. But yet still people think, oh, you must like the Democrats. No, I just told you I don't like the Democrats either. These personal feelings that you have are manufactured. They're generated. You don't know these people. Why would you have such strong feelings about them? For the positive, it's because you've been programmed to defend them. So imagine the hypocrisy of these people that make these fictional, quote unquote, fictional productions. They're allowed to tell the exact story through the format of fiction. But the minute that you say it's real, your content is removed. Wow. So I'll stay on this series. I've got a couple more episodes to cover on this, and then we'll, finish it up. I'll work on that today, and it'll be the season finale. A couple more episodes. So let's go into the chat here, see what you guys are up to. Shocking, isn't it? Hubby and I are both veterans, and we are so glad our 4 kids did not sign up. Amen to that. Hypocrisy is the basis of the world. Had Trump put a bunch of these people in jail, I might have become a fan. But I knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew he was just gaslighting us, telling us he was going to do things that he never intended to do. And it's exactly what happened. I had high hopes. I thought, man, I hope I'm wrong about him. I hope he puts these people in jail like he said he was. I hope he investigates 9/11. I really hope that he does. And he didn't. And that's when I knew he was just one of them. So, why would the British Prime Minister resign after 6 weeks? It's part of their games. That's exactly what it is. They have to maintain the appearances that they don't like each other and that they're, they resigned, and they'll throw in a few sacrifices in there. And it's all just smoke and mirrors to keep the charade going. There's no way that the superpowers of the world would leave to chance the future of all of those trillions of dollars in money and all the power they have. They would never leave that to chance to a voter. They just won't. So they have to make you believe that your vote counts and believe that the fate of the world is in your hands. But then at the end of the day, it's not. They would not do that. And that's why, I remember when Biden got elected, the Republicans were freaked out. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. We've got a nothing man with his finger on the nuclear button. And everyone's freaked out. I'm like, you guys still don't get it. He was put there for a reason. He was put there for a reason. There is no finger on a nuclear button. Yeah, he's a nothing man with an empty mind. But that doesn't matter because he was put there because he has an empty mind. They knew exactly what they were getting. So do you see now how the world makes a lot more sense when you shed away the right-left paradigm? And yes, you can have your personal belief system and preferences. As you guys know, I'm a right-leaning, and I don't say that as a political statement. I say that in terms of my moral values. And where they are taking the agenda, I oppose it on those grounds. But just because you have personal moral belief systems doesn't mean that that's going to translate into our leadership, because they do not hold those personal values, even when they say they do. They just want you to believe they hold those personal values, so you'll vote for them and give your consent for them to move the soccer ball down the field. Pun intended. And all the talk about clones and this and that, yes, there could be some of that going on, but that's just to muddy the waters so that you don't hold them accountable. Because you'll just say, oh, he's already put them all in jail, and what we're seeing are clones. Do you see the problem here with all the clone talk? Or they distract you with, oh, that's not really a male, that's a female. Yeah, that might be the case, but what does that matter in the big scheme of things? All that's going to do is make you a target to be taken off of YouTube for hate speech, which is what they want. They want you to get focused on that so they can go, boom, gotcha, bigotry and hate speech, going after a group of people. People ask me, why don't you talk about those things? I don't talk about it because it's a honey trap. It's to get you taken down. I focus on their symbolism, and I just put a mirror in their face. And they can't really do anything about that, can they? You put a mirror in their face. It's like a vampire who can't look at himself in a mirror. Right? And that's what we do here. We show everybody the vampire. You don't even have to say anything about it. You just say, look, the series just showed pizza and underground tunnels and matched up with some artwork with children in it. Oh, nothing to see here about that, right? Do you see how I didn't even have to say anything about it? I just show you, and other people can see it too. They see the patterns. You don't have to make wild statements about people and things that can get you taken down. All you have to do is show people the symbolism that they can't help themselves to show us. And that's how we get this done. In my opinion, anyway. I'm not here to tell anyone else how to run their channels, but this is how we run our channel. And so far, we've done a good job of staying on here, haven't we? It's been crazy, though. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of learning curve. But it takes a lot more work to do what we do over here than it does to just get on and start ranting about how, ranting at a specific person or something. That's easy to do. What's hard to do is picking this stuff apart at a fine detail level and presenting an argument in a case. That takes a lot of work and a lot of time, but we're committed to it because what else is there to do? These people aren't going to stop. We have to show the world what's going on. I mean, there's so many people being deceived. We have to do something. We can't just give up. So, hopefully people will pick up on this and realize what's going on and stop the madness, because ultimately, we are the ones feeding into the lie. Those of us who aren't awake are the ones actually feeding the beast. The only way to starve the beast is if 90% of America woke up to the beast and stopped feeding it, right? Now, we know that's not going to happen because the Bible says that it's not going to happen, that we're not going to win here until Jesus comes back. But it doesn't mean we can't wake a few more people up, right? And deliver the message of hope, which is the gospel. It doesn't mean we're ever supposed to stop trying to do that. So, all right, what else do we have here? What else is going on with you guys? Who are we? Do you have helpers? Oh, when I say we, I'm talking about all of us, you guys. I don't know how many times that I've said this, but I tell you that this channel is 80% from all of you guys. When I say we, I'm talking about all of us. I don't have any helpers. I do this all myself. All the editing, all the show prep, going live every day, you know, everything, watching it all that I do myself. But the ideas of what to look at, where to go, like, okay, for instance, after this show, I usually watch this show again. So that's the first thing. I'll give you guys a little snapshot into what I do during the day, okay? Max is asleep in the other room. He doesn't wake up till 1. So, first thing I do is I get off this show and I watch the show again. And I'll try to focus on the chat. And every so often, it's like Tarzan swinging from rope to rope, right? Another idea comes up for me to chase down. One of you will put it in the chat or the comments section. So I go through all the comments, and I generally will put a heart next to pretty much anything I generally agree with, or if it's a possible thing that could be, something that I generally agree with, typically. Now, sometimes I don't agree with it, but it's a good comment, and I'll put a heart next to it. So I go through every single comment. I'll reply to every comment. I just go through and generally heart them. So that takes me a couple hours to rewatch the show, go through all the comments, go through the chat. So right about, then I'll usually pull up tabs. I'll start pulling up tabs based on the chat and the comments, and I'll start loading them up into my browser of things that I need to look at for the next day. Now, probably most of the time, there'll be a glaring, comment or email, because I also check all my emails. I have a Yahoo account, I have a Gmail account. I go through every single email, most of the emails. I get probably 300 to 500 emails per day from you guys. 300 to 500. And that's why I asked you guys, I love your emails, but please make them short. And don't just send me links. Give me 2 sentences, what the link is about, and then put the link. And I can't read pages and pages of emails, because literally you would never see me, because I would just be lost in emails. Because some of you like to write a lot, and that's okay, but just try to keep it to 2 sentences. What that does is it increases the odds of me reading your email. So if I see an email with 6 paragraphs, I'm not going to read it. I just don't have the time. Unless there's something that jumps right out at me at the beginning of that email. But if you send me 2 sentences and a link, and the 2 sentences are something really profound that's relating to something that we're following right now, chances are I will read your email. Now, the other thing is, please don't send me 5 or 10 emails a day. I love you, but that's not helping me, and I'm not going to read those. It's too much communication. So then I'm going through emails for the next couple hours, and let me give you an example. So one of you, and we're going to cover this on the next headline show. Okay, so we did the show the other day on China gaining control of the United States, and the United States basically wanting to be like China at some point. In secret, they're not telling us that they want us to be like China, but they admire how China has gained control of its citizens. So one of you sent me this. You sent me a sentence, and it said, "Casey, you were right about China." Boom, and then you said this is going to be on the next currency. They're actually putting a Chinese American citizen on the current. I don't know if she's Chinese American. Yeah, she's Asian American on the currency. So that was like a clue. So we're going to cover that at some point. So do you see how that worked? It related into something we were talking about. Someone else sent me this. This will make it onto a future show. Bioelectric networks. We've been talking about this. They're using these to grow hydras. Links directly into what we're talking about. So those are just a couple examples. Now you notice that everything I just told you, I haven't even started on the next day's show yet. So then right about 1 o'clock, I start getting into the next show. And usually, if it's a headline show, I can usually get that done in about 2 hours of research, putting together my show notes in preparation for the next day's show. But if I'm watching a series, it's basically a marathon. Like I'm tearing through the episodes, I'm collecting screenshots with OBS. Then I have to go into Movie Maker, edit all those together. You guys, I'm doing this every single day. I'm not saying that to brag, but we're one of the hardest working YouTube channels out there. And so you can imagine where sometimes I get frustrated because our channel just isn't growing the same way other channels are growing. And it's not like we're putting up trash. We're not putting up garbage. We're not just reading things into other things that aren't there. All the work we do is all connected to other work that we've done. And it's all confirmed itself through the gift of the Holy Spirit. So now you know how YouTube works. They don't reward that. They seem to reward channels that don't do the work. And that's fine. I'm not complaining about that. But now you know. And now you know why I get so sensitive when we get gaslighted. Because we're doing a lot of work here, aren't we? And God's blessing the work. And we're finding all this crazy stuff. And so this is why I have to part ways with people who gaslight us. I have zero tolerance now. I will delete them, all their followers and minions who come over here to try to discredit our work. And I'm not even giving it a second thought anymore. Like I used to try to reach out to people and, well, they're not doing this kind of work. They're plugging numbers into a calculator and basically gaslighting other channels the rest of the time. So everything's coming full circle. Everything's being confirmed through all of the work. And this is the work God has given me to do. And it's the work he's given a lot of you to do. Because as I said, as I just described to you, most of this is coming from you guys. Which is, to me, is amazing. It's a miracle. It's literally a miracle. Now, I don't use everybody's work that you guys send, but just understand, have faith in the process. Look, if I don't use your stuff, maybe think about how you send the stuff, reformat it, maybe focus on other things, pray to God, that say, God, if this is something you want Casey to see, please let his eyes see it. And then that's about the only advice that I could give you. And if it pops up, it pops up. Now, interestingly, some of you, I've used a lot of the stuff you've sent me. It's like you're on fire. Thanks, Stacy. Stacy just became a channel member. Thank you so much. Some of you are on fire. I've used, like, every week you send me something. I'm like, how is it you're seeing all this stuff? And then others of you have sent me a lot of stuff, and I have not been able to use it for one reason or another. So apologies for that. I still love you. Just have faith in the process and understand that if it's something that, God wants shown on this channel, that it will show up and help complete the picture of what's really happening in this reality. So this is what's going on, you guys. That's a little behind the scenes. Usually about 2 o'clock, Max wakes up. He's a gamer. Today we've got to go grocery shopping. I was supposed to take him a couple days ago, but he was tired. So today we're going to go grocery shopping. probably in Branson. He wants to go check out Branson, so we're going to go to Branson and do some grocery shopping. And that boy can eat. He's only about 150 pounds soaking wet, but we're going to go get him some groceries. We're about out of food. I mean, there's no food. So yesterday I took all the black beans, took like 3 cans of black beans. Now here's a great idea if you're into chili. Let me give you my chili recipe. It turned out phenomenal. So all we have in the cupboards was 3 cans of black beans and some ground beef. So I sauteed the ground beef in onions and garlic. Then I put a taco seasoning packet on top of it. Then I poured, I had some chicken broth left over from some chicken I boiled a couple weeks ago. It was in the freezer. And I put that in a giant pot. So it was a lot of chicken broth. Like if you have a box of chicken broth, just pour the whole thing in there. And then I put the black beans in there. And then after the, and then when the beef was sauteing, I put in a ton of chili powder. Like chili, what do they call it? The stuff you make chili with. Put a ton of that in there. Now, I haven't added any salt at this point because the taco seasoning packet and the chili powder probably has some salt in it. That was done sauteing. And then I ended up, thanks, love is unconquerable. I appreciate it. Then I poured the beef into the chicken broth with 3 cans of black beans. Now, I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out because you never know how, like, black bean chili would turn out. I'd never heard of that before. Well, it was delicious. So I poured all that in there. I started stirring it around and it thickened up real nice. And I went to taste the sauce part of it and it was like heaven. So then I'm like, Max and I like jalapenos. So then I kicked it up a notch and I put in a bunch of jalapenos. Yeah, 3 cans, Slayer. One of the cans was a big can and the 2 others were smaller. But, you know, rough and dirty, it's like, 3 cans. So then I put in jalapenos, pickled jalapenos, the pickled kind, the green ones you get in a can. And I stirred it all up and it was like heaven. Now my son's, he's not really a picky eater. He has like a very diverse diet. But he likes good food, like I can't just feed him crap. He likes to have good tasting food. Now he won't tell me if the food doesn't taste great, but it's very rare that I make food that doesn't turn out. Normally it turns out pretty good. Yeah, I put the onions in, you saute those in with the beef. That's what you do. Now, yeah, you can add sour cream. That would have taken it over the top. We ate it with some leftover stale chips that we had, some corn chips. You could also, put that on make a chili dog out of it. Yeah, it was delicious. So that's the black bean chili recipe. Yeah, if you don't have taco seasoning, you can actually make taco seasoning because we had run out before. And I really wanted tacos one time. So you could just go online and you type in, make your own taco seasoning. And cumin's part of it, a couple other spices, and you can like make your own taco seasoning, which is delicious. Now, the secret is you have to brown the meat first. And then you put the seasonings on the meat. That's what you got to do. So, hey, if any of you guys make this today or tomorrow, put it in the comment section and maybe I'll read about it tomorrow on the next show. All right. Max also loves, I do a great Indian chicken. What do they call it? What's it called? It's called not chicken tikka masala. It's basically a barbecued Indian chicken. And so, gosh, we should do like cooking shows, right? That'd be cool. Throwing turmeric adds flavor. Oh, that's good to know. I put turmeric in the Indian food. And paprika and some other things. But basically, they have pre-packaged barbecue tandoori. That's what it's called, tandoori chicken packets. You can buy them on Amazon, and it's basically this really, really red mix of spices. And what you do is you put some of that in olive oil, and you basically just barely like heat it up, and it releases all of the flavor into the olive oil. So it's like a paste. And that's what you use to season the chicken. But the secret to tandoori chicken is Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt. For some reason, I think that makes it like stick to the chicken or something. And you marinate that in lemon juice and garlic in a Ziploc bag with the spicy, oily paste. And you can marinate that for like a full 24 hours. Now, we weren't sure we were going to use like chicken breast. We used chicken breast, and I wasn't sure if that was going to turn out, because what they tell you is with Indian food, you got to leave the bone in. You got to use bone in, because then the meat doesn't get dried out. And I will say that when you use drumsticks and thighs and things, it does turn out a little bit better. It doesn't dry out as much when you're broiling the chicken. But the breast turned out almost just as good. And the longer you marinate it in the yogurt, lemon juice, garlic, and ginger, I forgot the ginger part of it, and the paste, the longer you marinate it, the more tender the meat will be. Then you simply put it on a rack and you broil it, and make sure that the drippings can kind of fall down beneath the rack and into the bottom. And there you have tandoori chicken, and it tastes almost identical to what you would eat in an Indian restaurant. Thanks, B-Man. Thanks for joining the channel membership. I appreciate you guys. So those are just 2 recipes that Max loves. And like I said, he actually worked in a Chinese food restaurant. He lived in my son lived in Hollywood. It's a crazy story. I'll tell you some personal stuff, but before he came back into my life, his mother had basically kicked him out of the house. And now, if you knew my son, he's an amazing child. He's 23. I still call him a child, though, because I missed a lot of his childhood years. But he's an amazing person. He's polite. He always does his dishes. He'll do my dishes sometimes. He hugs me. He's just a really amazing human being. And for his mother to kick him out of the house is huge. I was shocked. I was like, what happened? He said, well, we had a disagreement about politics. And she tried to make me feel like a victim because of my color. And I refused to accept that. No, Max isn't married. No, he's not married. And they got in a big fight, and he ended up getting roommates in Hollywood. So I was very concerned about him, especially given the work that we do here. I was like, oh, brother, is this some kind of weird thing that's going to happen? And I was really, really afraid for him. He was there for about 3 or 4 months. He got a job at a Chinese food restaurant. He was kind of flying in the wind. He had never been away from home. I was very concerned about him. And he and I got back in touch, and I said, son, just come out here and stay with me. And he goes, well, I might do that. Thanks for the offer, Dad. And a couple months went by, and he was out of money. And I said, just come stay with me. So he came. And when I was in Connecticut, and he ended up, within like 2 months, he got a job. He was working down at a bobo shop. And I went in there one day, and he's just there. The place was full, and he's taking orders at the counter and just running the place. Just a really smart, bright child. And so proud of him. And then we came out here to Arkansas. And so he's still with me. I wasn't sure if he was going to be interested in coming out here, but he is, and he's thriving. He loves it out here. And so now it's just a process. I share with him a lot of the spiritual synchronicities going on these days. You know, the enemy has done the enemy has basically come after our youth, hasn't he? And what he's tried to do is basically disenfranchise people from the gospel. I believe the enemy is actually in control of many of the churches out there. And some of the things the churches are doing are actually pushing people away from God. Like fake healing. Like saying they're healing and they're really not. Or condemning people instead of lifting them up. And basically judging people. We weren't sent here to do that. We're sent here to love one another and share with them the root of the love, which is Jesus. And eventually, over time, I hate to say the word, but you wear them down, so to speak. They see things happening in your life. They see your faith, and it becomes a natural revelation to them. So, pray for me and pray for Max. Pray for me that I can be the example and say the right things to him to help him to see Jesus in his life. And I have faith, 100% sure, just because I know his heart, that he will be. But trust me, when he was with his mom, it was the other direction because of the gaslighting and the narcissism. And now he's with me, so I think things are going to be much better. He's already thriving. We have lots of discussions about everything in life. And so just a little encouragement for those of you that are dealing with people in your life who might not be aware of the love of Jesus. Just keep at it. And most importantly, focus on what you're doing in your life, because there's nothing worse than someone trying to beat someone over the head with the gospel, but then they look at your life and they're like, look at your life. You know, you've got addictions, your life's in chaos. You know, you're a hypocrite, you're a narcissist, you're a gaslighter. If they can point the finger back at you and say all those things, then they don't see Jesus in you. Whereas if you're full of love and you adjust well to things that happen to you, you rise above any adversity, they see God working in your life, and then guess what? They're going to want that too. They're going to want that relationship with Jesus. So, that's what's going on. Anyway, sorry for all the personal stuff, but, I can't help it. I love you guys. You guys are like my family. And so, I share things that I can with you. So, all right. What else is going on? Does my son listen to my show? No, he doesn't. And I rarely talk to him about what I do, but I try to, and that should be some encouragement for you guys, because look, I know it's hard. And look here I am, here are the stars, and I'm not even able to talk to my son about this work yet. So I get it. When you're trying to share this with people in your life, it's difficult to do. And that puts a huge responsibility on my shoulders to try to package this information so that it can reach people and not come across like a crazy person. So this is why I stay away from certain things and topics that could be happening, but you got to show people in a certain way before they can accept the information. If you start going off into too many rabbit holes, they'll get freaked out or they'll think you're crazy. Okay, so that's what's going on with that. I'm just being honest with you guys. We cannot talk to those we love about these things, only can be an example. Yeah, I mean, you can drop hints. You can, when little doors open, like I'm trying to think of a specific example where a door opened between me and Max, and we were able to have a discussion about something. There was some kind of synchronicity that happened that we knew wasn't an accident. And he goes, Dad, that seems like a God thing. And I had never heard him say that before. And he sees God working in my life. We're out here, we're working on this property together, and that's a miracle. It's a miracle. He's seen like my life compared to like his mother's life. We talk about that sometimes, the blessings, and that helps open his mind. He knows that's not an accident. He's got natural gifts and talents, which he knows are from, the Most High. Things just seem to work out for him, and he's starting to accept the source of that someone's looking out for him, right? So, all right, you guys, I don't have any bots today. That's cool. All right, you guys, I'll let you guys go. I got a lot of work to do, so I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to watch these last 2 episodes and go through all the comments and everything in the chat. Take care and be safe, you guys. Have a great rest of your day.